Hello and welcome back to another episode of How It Was Made, a video series presented to you by Continuify. I'm your host, Josh Hines, and today we're going to be talking about social media. More importantly, what social media platforms should you be on? So with social media, there's three ways to go about this. There's organic, and there's paid, and then there's kind of your personal brand. So you've probably seen if you've been anywhere on LinkedIn or even some of the social media platforms, personal branding is a craze right now. From individual contributors all the way to every CEO seems to have a personal brand these days. Elon Musk seems to be heading up that trail, but it's mostly because he owns a social media platform now. So he can kind of give himself all of this clout. I digress. Anyways, when thinking about social media, there's, like I said, three ways to kind of go about it. There's the platforms that you actually want to have a position on and you want to be sharing on a regular basis. There's the social media platforms that you just strictly want to advertise on that you don't necessarily even need a profile to advertise with. And then there's the social media platforms that you, like I shared, want to do personal branding on. When thinking through which platforms you want to be on, it's really like something that you want to consider. Like by default, most people are like, I want to be on every single platform. I want to have a presence on every single platform. But the reality is, if you want to do social media well, like being on every single platform is extremely difficult. Each one of the platforms has, you're going to have potentially an entirely different audience on because the type of people that engage on each of the platforms is different. Like the way I would engage on Facebook would be entirely different than the way I would engage on TikTok and even LinkedIn. So even thinking through that, their marketing strategy is probably going to have to be different on each of the platforms. Yeah, like most brands will pretty much create content and then just share the same post on all of the different platforms. But if you typically look at the engagement for those types of posts, it's usually not that much because, like I said, different audiences on different platforms, and what does well on LinkedIn is probably going to fall flat on Instagram or LinkedIn. So just kind of sharing the same exact post 6 different ways on different platforms is probably not going to do well. It's the same reason why you've seen a lot of content creators doing what's called repurposing. They'll have a webinar or a blog post, but the way they share it on each of the platforms is entirely different. Like the way they would visually share it on Instagram would be completely different than how they would do a TikTok short or a YouTube short. It's still driving back to the same long tail content, but the way that they repurpose it and present it on each of the social platforms is tailored to the platform that they're on, whether that be them doing a short reel where it's 30, 45 seconds and then pushing back to long format, or in the case of YouTube Shorts, or I think even Instagram now makes it so that you can have a longer reel where you can kind of go more into the details about what somebody's going to get when they look at the long tail content, whether that be a blog post or a webinar or a video demo that you're trying to push to. So thinking through all the pros and cons of each of the platforms, personally, what I set up for Continuify is I did go the route of setting up most of the platforms. I'm going to go here and share kind of each of my channels. So starting with YouTube, I did go ahead and create my YouTube channel. I've uploaded a crazy amount of videos here. If you guys haven't checked it out, I highly suggest clicking out to it. Before I even launched this brand, I went through and created a good amount of videos on just different things that I had learned over the years, talking about marketing and sales, and a lot of even playlists on how to do email marketing and how to do OKRs and how to do digital advertising. These are also all available on the website where I post the videos on YouTube, but then embed in my website. But I've gone through and, like I shared, a lot of my webinars are here, the In the High Demand series, get your popular videos, and then of course breaking the In High Demand webinars out, I do YouTube Shorts, which has gotten some visibility. It's definitely something that I still want to optimize. YouTube's kind of been an afterthought that I've been it's there, but I haven't been actively engaging a lot. It is something that I'm wanting to, of course, take this How It Was Made series and do a lot of shorts. And then, of course, the long tail version is available on the YouTube channel. Eventually, under In High Demand, you'll start seeing the How It Was Made series. And then again, I'll do repurposing where I'll do shorts and drive to that longer tail video. But YouTube's it's a growing channel. What's nice about YouTube, it is the second largest search engine still. I mean, of course, we have all the AI programs like ChatGPT and Perplexity and all of those, which people are using a lot for information. But for a majority of the market that isn't an early adopter of AI, they're still very much going to Google and YouTube to find information. The second channel I want to share is obviously my Instagram. I have a whole, what, 12, 13, 15, 20-ish here. It's got 100 followers. This is very much like the YouTube situation. Again, this is what I shared, that a lot of times when you're first starting out, you probably don't want to be on all the channels. You typically want to pick one channel that you're going to be really good at and focus on and understand how that particular social media platform's algorithm works, figuring out the schedule, building up an audience, tailoring all your content to that audience. And then as you have a foothold there that you want to then expand, then you could hire people to help you get on another platform and almost repurpose a lot of the content that you already created. But like I shared, a lot of your influencers, if they are on multiple channels, they are repurposing the long tail content, but they're tailoring it to the specific platform they're on. So that is another route to go. But for me, it was like Instagram. It is another platform that I want to play around with. I really think this How It Was Made series would play well on Instagram as well as TikTok, which is the next platform we'll dig into. So TikTok's another one of those channels that we all thought was going away, and then they said, "Oh, just kidding, we're coming back." I had set it up, and of course, as you can see, I have 3 videos with 180 some views. This is, like I shared, I think the How It Was Made series, once I repurpose it, will play very well on Instagram and TikTok. And that's how I plan on growing my following on these 2 channels. And then, of course, pushing back to the long tail on YouTube is the thought process here. If you have the personality and the ability to create like almost like squirrel-like entertainment, but at the same time you're educating, TikTok's algorithm is absolutely nuts. The potential of reach, especially once you start doing this more often, is crazy. Like I've seen brands that I've followed that one minute they're like myself with a following of 30, and then 50 posts later they have a couple thousand, if not 50 some thousand followers and thousands of views on their social media. So TikTok is definitely one of those platforms that I want to go heavy on this year, and I'm excited about, especially now that it's stayed. Like I shared the How It Was Made series, and I feel like a lot of the short training videos I do, once I repurpose them and kind of make them a little more fast paced, I think they'll play well on TikTok. So before you knock it, everybody's like, why in the world would I go on Facebook? Facebook's one of those sleeper brands. Depending on your SaaS offering, a lot of the older generation is on Facebook still. I mean, it's our moms and our dads and our grandparents. A lot of them are very active on Facebook. So depending on your product or service or even SaaS, it's like a lot of your decision makers and executives and higher ups are going to probably be more active on Facebook than they would TikTok or Instagram, maybe YouTube. But especially if you're looking to get in SaaS, like Facebook could be a really big sleeper platform. It's something, again, that it's somewhat of a placeholder for me right now, but it is something that I want to get more aggressive on this year. We're kind of building up a theme here that you're kind of seeing my least aggressive platforms, and then we'll go into some of the more like where I'm doing well in my personal opinion and excited about. But yeah, Facebook, I feel like it's one of those platforms that a lot of people sleep on. And if you're trying to connect with decision makers and executives, this is one of those platforms that they're probably on. And because there's not a lot of noise from all of the younger generations, and Facebook's one of those platforms where it's not like squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. You can actually like connect with people and present some more long tail format content that they'll actually sit there and engage with it and watch it all entirely. And then as well as the is that doing lookalike audiences with advertising, running that across Meta for Facebook can allow you to, when people are visiting your website, because a lot of people are leaving Facebook from an advertising standpoint for TikToks and Instagrams and the other social media platforms, the cost acquisition models in Facebook's a lot better and somewhat more reasonable than some of the other platforms. So don't sleep on Facebook. And then lastly is LinkedIn. LinkedIn company profiles are great. It allows you to create your events so that you can share your webinars and boost those. You can do your featured stuff, your featured posts, so that you can highlight things, obviously your posts, your upcoming events, and then you have all your employee engagement. Company profile I haven't done a lot with, but my personal page is where I've done a lot more. I'm up to 4K followers. I share my thing. I got a clear, like I assist SaaS brands in making sense of HubSpot to reduce CAC, days to close, and churn while driving higher LTV using data, clicking photo. I have my featured posts. All my profiles align with my brand, but it's more of like my personal brand. So this is where I've kind of gone this route where I'm worrying more about my personal brand, especially considering I'm a solo entrepreneur right now. In the long run, I'll be driving more to Contino5, but at this beginning, like I had a decent following when I first launched. And I think since I've launched last August, I've gained over 1,000 followers just by positioning hard that this is what I do and who I do it for. But I have a bunch of videos that I've uploaded, a bunch of posts I'm actively commenting, and then I have obviously my experience. So this is, like I shared, I want more of the personal brand focus, and that's where I'm getting a lot more traction, where I'm getting the referrals, making the connection requests, doing the in-mails. I haven't set up Sales Navigator yet, but that is something that's on my radar. But yeah, when thinking through your social media, there's really no right or wrong answer to it. It's just one of those things like you try with the different networks, see what appeals. A lot of it really depends on what you're offering, what platform is going to play out well for you. What I would suggest, even going back to like earlier videos in the series, is try to establish a beachfront, pick one platform that you really want to do well and increase your following there. And then once you kind of feel like you've hit a glass ceiling, then potentially try other platforms. Because like I shared at the beginning of this video, what works on LinkedIn probably isn't going to work on TikTok, and it's definitely not going to work on Facebook. So understanding each of the platforms, understanding the audiences on that platform, and then leaning into that. And like I shared, there's really three ways about going about social media. There's the organic on each of the platforms, there's the paid on each of the platforms, and then there's the ability of stepping outside of your brand and creating your own personal brand. And depending on what you're offering, that could go entirely different ways. So I hope this video helped. This is obviously another episode of How It Was Made with Contino5. My name is Josh, and until next time, keep building.